Hello and welcome to History's a Blast. I'm in the borough of Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, county seat of Franklin County, and I'm standing here in the middle of the what used to be the shop area of the Cumberland Valley Railroad. It was the former Cumberland Valley Railroad, later the Pennsylvania Railroad's Cumberland Valley branch. And behind me is the remnants of the roundhouse, now a produce market in the northeastern quadrant of the town. And I thought this would be a good place to start a tour of the remains of one of the classic Pennsylvania Railroad branch lines. So come along and we'll see what we can get into. In the late 1880s, the Cumberland Valley Railroad undertook a major expansion of its Chambersburg facilities into this area from a by then congested site on the west side of North 2nd Street, about 2 blocks to my left. We'll go there a little later. The project included a large brick roundhouse and turntable and the 2 single-story brick structures we're looking at here. In front was the boiler and metal shop, and the machine shop is in the building behind it. More improvements came between 1912 and 1918, including an erecting shop where locomotives could be disassembled and reassembled for complete overhauls, and moving the main line from its original street level grade down the middle of 3rd Street to an elevated high line with reinforced concrete arch overpasses like this one. Now, these shops made the Cumberland Valley Railroad essentially self-sufficient, just in time to lose its corporate identity as a subsidiary of the Pennsylvania Railroad to become a division of the Pennsy in 1919. During 1918, when the new erecting shop went up, these stalls were added to the semicircular 1889 roundhouse, probably to fit the 280 Class H6 locomotives, which were large for the day, that had entered service beginning in 1903. To the right of the driveway that's been cut through the old roundhouse embankment, you can see part of the concrete foundation of the older roundhouse stalls. In the background, there's a microbrewery built into one of the railroad shops buildings. They call it the Gear House Brewery, which gives you a hint on what went on in there. And I'll pivot around here, looking into the back shop and the erecting shop behind. Machine shop, boiler shop, erecting shop, car shops, everything were in this area. This might not have been the actual car shop, but it was, the car shop would have been around here somewhere. Looking between the machine shop and the other shop building into the erecting shop, you see the blocked up doorway that leads out of the shops complex and right into the middle of where the turntable pit was. This is the remains of the freight station, converted into a restaurant. They had a kitchen fire that burned off the right side of the building. It's been rebuilt, reconstructed, and might be part of the microbrewery now. I don't know what its status is, but this is the remnants of the Cumberland Valley Railroad station here in the north end of Chambersburg. And it's right across the street from the Chambersburg cold storage. I don't know if you can see in the glare the faded remains. Chambersburg Ice and Cold Storage. This is the Cumberland Valley Hose Company, formed with the help of the Cumberland Valley Railroad and the borough of Chambersburg. Employees of the railroad company formed the manpower for the volunteer fire company. We're only about a half a block away from the shops complex over my shoulder. And as you can see from the sign between the doors, it's now the home of the Chambersburg Volunteer Firemen's Museum. Very appropriate use. We're on North 2nd Street, and this is the original Cumberland Valley Railroad office building and passenger depot. The original building is visible with the arches. It was 2 stories with a crenellated top around, and the top stories were added sometime later in its life. This station probably postdates the burning of Chambersburg in 1864 by Confederate troops, but I might be wrong. I'll have to check my book by Westhafer that I have at home. The original Cumberland Valley Railroad office building and passenger depot. On the back side now, it's a little quieter back here. It was a train shed coming off of the building. Here you can really see the difference between the original brickwork and the added on structure above it later in life. There was a roundhouse back in there. That red brick building is remnants of the old A&P food store, now an extension of the Corpus Christi Catholic Parish in the near distance. And down here by the Falling Spring Creek was a water tank here somewhere at some point. Looking now through the park behind the senior center and the stone wall of the original county jail across through the trees there. It's hard to believe in this little area was the entire original guts of a valley railroad, the Cumberland Valley Railroad. Former A&P supermarket building, now part of the Corpus Christi Catholic Parish, was the location of the roundhouse. It wasn't much bigger than that. Turntable was in front there in the middle of that parking lot. Shops complex was just a series of small buildings backed up against the alley, up against the Catholic church there. And that was it at the time of the Civil War. Years later came big changes. This is the second Cumberland Valley Railroad station on 3rd Street. Housed the Public Opinion newspaper for many, many years. As we look down south along 3rd Street, you can see the grade. This was the railroad grade right through the middle of town. Came in from the south, came under a passenger train platform, a covered platform in the middle of the street, and continued on down through there. And you can see the freight station roof in the distance. And there's the cold storages on the opposite side of the street from the roundhouse. This is the site of the third and last of the Cumberland Valley Railroad passenger depots in Chambersburg. Now just a parking lot, but you can see the concrete tunnels leading to the pedestrian walkway and staircase that came out of the station, went up through the High Line grade onto a platform. There were 4 tracks up there. 2 tracks were sidings that came in by the platforms and 2 tracks that bypassed them, because this was also the main line. And looking off now to my south is the current Professional Arts Building, former Craft Press Building, and originally the brand new Cumberland Valley General Offices. Opened in 1918 or 1919, just before or at about the same time that the Pennsylvania Railroad dissolved all of the independent corporations. And we're just a block away from the Public Opinion, the second 1870s era passenger station off in that direction. And there was a tall water tank on the other side of the High Line that's marked today only by the concrete footings. But I got a picture of it years ago before it was torn down. There are many other remnants of the Cumberland Valley Railroad scattered throughout the Cumberland Valley, south as far as Greencastle and north to Shippensburg and even to Carlisle, Pennsylvania. But this is about all we have time for on this trip, so that'll have to wait for a later time. And meanwhile, I hope you enjoyed this little look at the Cumberland Valley Railroad, and we'll take some time to look at our other videos. See you soon.